Hello and welcome back to Continental Club, where we discuss the hottest topics in European football. Joining me today, we've got Henry Hill and Michael McCubs. Ori, you're just back from holiday. How was it?
Yeah, you know what? People know last week I was meant to go to Portugal, but it didn't go quite to plan. So I had to go to North Wales instead, which, not quite the Algarve, but actually pretty happy with how it all worked out. And it's good to see you two again, because last week I had Chris and Sam on the show, so a bit of normality. To have you two back on the show.
Good. We're back. I hope the Welsh were getting stuck into the pre-Euros content there as well. McCubs, how are you? Have you survived the heat this week?
Oh yeah, just about, dude. Just about. I've been loving it, to be honest. Like, the sun's out every day. Not so much today, but at least it's warm. And yeah, the Euros are starting. It's just it's all coming up good in London at the moment. Turkey, Italy tonight, right? Italy, Turkey, yeah. Turkey, Italy.
Oh, yes.
I'm buzzing for the Euros.
Good man. Yeah, it's getting me through these hot, sticky days. I'm thinking about doing a full body wax because at the moment I cannot sleep at all in this heat. But anyway, I'll leave the thoughts of me getting waxed in the background. Let's move on with today's show, because we're actually leaving Euros content until our big match preview coming out later in the show. And instead, we wanted to talk about some transfer rumours that we've heard that, in our opinion, just don't make sense. We're going to analyse, take them apart and see why they don't make sense, and see whether we actually agree with each other, because there might not be 100% agreement on them. But McCubs, we're going to kick off with a suggestion from @Kunal_was_here, and it's Hakimi to Chelsea. I mean, what do you make of this move? Obviously a fantastic player.
Yeah, I mean, on the face of it, it's like, this is another signing that would potentially, make a team, more viable candidates for a league title or whatever. Obviously, we saw that with Inter. I think Hakimi was a big part of that title charge, wasn't he? He really added another dynamic to that already very impressive attack with Lukaku and Lautaro, and ran that wing very well. I know he's got kind of defensive issues, let's say, which I think he probably will kind of develop into it and improve on as his career goes on. But yeah, an excellent signing for Inter at a very decent price, wasn't it? But with Chelsea, I guess you could say the same for Chelsea in terms of, they're very much on a roll at the moment. They're, Champions League winners. I feel like when you win the Champions League, especially when you've got a manager of the calibre of Thomas Tuchel as well, that serves them in very good stead for attracting more players this summer, especially considering how good their business was last year as well. However, it just doesn't feel like the area that Chelsea should be spending all that money on. So, to give you a bit of background, Sky Italy reported on Wednesday that Chelsea had matched PSG's €60 million offer for Hakimi. They claim that Inter might be more interested in the Blues offer due to their long-standing admiration for Andreas Christensen and Emerson Palmieri as well. Apparently, they're holding out for €80 million, but I guess if they were able to integrate one or two of those players in the deal, then that would probably make up that difference, wouldn't it? But it was later reported that they'd rejected that bid, and it was also reported that apparently they want to separate any interest they have in Christian and Emerson from any potential deal for Hakimi, because obviously they've got that debt to make up. I think 80 million for Hakimi would probably make up a large amount of the surplus they want to make this summer, and would probably mean that they wouldn't have to sell Lautaro or Lukaku. So I get the feeling they're just trying to get as much as humanly possible for one of their stars, to kind of get that out of the way and get on with their kind of other summer transfer business. But yeah, at Chelsea, I mean, even at PSG, he's not necessarily I wouldn't say he's necessarily the perfect candidate, because he is primarily a wing back. PSG have generally lined up within a four at the back system for a number of years, and obviously the fullback positions have always been woefully underinvested in. But I still think he would make more sense going to PSG. He's playing in a league where I think you don't get quite as exposed as an attacking fullback. Obviously has great Champions League pedigree as well. and I trust Pochettino as well to kind of work it out with him. For Chelsea, however, they're very well stocked there already. Reeces James had an excellent end to the season. Azpilicueta was obviously playing as the right centre-back, Reeces James as the wing-back. And this move would suggest that Tuchel is thinking about perhaps moving Reeces James to that right centre-back role, unless he wants him to be understudy, which I would find very strange for a 21-year-old who is developing at such a good rate. So, yeah, it doesn't make sense to me in that sense. Obviously, Azpilicueta isn't getting any younger. He's 32 in August, but he did play 43 games last year. His fitness record is excellent, and he's just generally a fantastic leader at Stamford Bridge. So it feels like it feels like the wrong move at the wrong time, to be honest, especially considering that they've been linked with Haaland as well, and considering that Tammy Abraham's future looks pretty in doubt at Stamford Bridge already. Obviously, Giroud will be there next year as well, but that centre-forward position seems a far bigger priority for Chelsea, especially considering that I think Timo Werner's future at the club is very much kind of on the left of that three-pronged attack, isn't it? So considering that they will probably have to spend upwards of 80 million on a centre-forward target, if that's Haaland, then it's going to be a lot more. Spending 60 to 80 million on Hakimi seems a little bit strange at this moment in time, and that's not even considering that they, in the long term, they probably need to get in another central midfielder and perhaps another centre-back as well. So yeah, and it also depends on what we want to see Chelsea playing in the next few years. Like I personally would like to see Tuchel switch to a back four. I think I think we could see, the tools that he has at his disposal. We could see Chelsea playing some of the best football in Europe in years to come. And so far, with that three at the back system, we haven't exactly seen them light up the world. Although they've been very functional and very effective at winning games, they haven't exactly been the most entertaining. So if I was a Chelsea fan, I'd want to be seeing signings that can facilitate that move to a back four, perhaps. It doesn't seem like the right move right now.
Yeah, I tend to agree, really. I think he's a phenomenal player, but it just makes more sense for PSG. I think with that cover they've got in that midfield, with a player we're going to come on to in due course in Vinaldum, and a Herrera, Idrissa Gueye, etc. I think you'd get away with putting him in a back four in France, but if he was playing in a back four in the future at Chelsea, I think he might be slightly exposed. But I do think he's a phenomenal player, amazing athlete, and if you could get him for close to £60 million, I actually think he's not really a bargain per se, but that's kind of his price range. He's such a difference maker going forward. I think there's only really sort of Trent Alexander-Arnold, who's an entirely different style of player, who can produce that sort of output from right back at the moment. So Achraf Hakimi, phenomenal player, just probably doesn't make quite sense for Chelsea right now this summer. But Chelsea fans, we want to hear from you. What do you guys make of that? Would you rather target a striker, maybe a midfielder, maybe another centre-back if Kurt Zouma's future is looking a little unsteady, especially if you're selling Tomori as well? Get your thoughts in the comments down below. But let's move on to a player suggested by @Boggle93, which was Richarlison. Basically, since Ancelotti was announced as Real Madrid's manager, returning to the club where which he won La Decima, there has been some news that he might bring Richarlison with him, which for me just feels like he was always positive about Richarlison when he was managing him. Said he had Ballon d'Or capabilities, so now he's being linked with Real Madrid. I actually think this is total rubbish, to be honest. The source is Football Insider, and they claim that Ancelotti is keen to raid his former club. Obviously only spent 18 months at Everton as well, and supposedly Everton's finances are slightly struggling as well. FFP regulations, obviously COVID's had a massive hit, as it has on everyone, and apparently they might have to sell before they can buy for their new manager. And it's no real surprise that Everton are facing some financial difficulties. They've spent a net £294 million since the start of 2017-18. That's £55 million more than Chelsea net in the same period. And last season they ended up 10th. And I thought it was a really mixed campaign. They did pretty well in some of the bigger games as well. Ended that terrible run against Liverpool, etc. But they also lost to, I remember, Newcastle, Fulham, and they ended the season with an absolute thrashing at the hands of Man City. And now Ancelotti's jumped ship as well. They were 8 points off the Champions League. It's a worrying time to be an Everton fan. It was interesting to see that none of the Everton players went on social media to thank Ancelotti after his time there. I think they basically felt a little bit betrayed that he jumped ship at the first possible opportunity, only coming after a couple of weeks after he'd said, I'm definitely staying at Everton. So it's a tricky one, but this is not the first time Richarlison has been linked with a big club as well. I mean, Barcelona reportedly made an €80 million bid for him, which was turned down in January 2020, which now just looks like great money. But at the time, Richarlison was an up-and-coming, forward who had a great future, and he still does. But I just think he slightly flatters to deceive. I don't think he's got the consistency yet of a top player. He's clearly talented. He contributed 14 league goals in 2018-19, 16 in 2019-20. But last year, fairly underwhelming, I'd say. Just 7 goals and 3 assists in 34 league games. And his numbers, if you break them down as well, a little bit underwhelming. 2.4 shots, 0.8 key passes, 1.9 dribbles per 90. These are all pretty good. Shows that he's probably got a great future ahead of him. But I don't think he's a step up on the likes of Vinicius Jr., Rodrigo, Marco Asensio. And considering how underwhelming they were at points last season, that's a bit of a criticism, really. And just 0.33 expected goals per 90 as well, which was the same as what Mariano Diaz put up at Real Madrid last year. Obviously, Mariano Diaz spent more of his time playing through the middle, whereas Richarlison's on the left, with Dominic Calvert-Lewin down the middle, so maybe it's not a fair comparison. But I'm just not overwhelmed by the prospect of Richarlison going to Real Madrid. I mean, Henry, what do you make of Richarlison to Real Madrid? Are you with me? Not quite at that level.
Yeah, I will say I wrote about Richarlison, I think, for a Scout report a few months ago, and his work rate has actually improved this season. He's been starting from deeper, tracking back, and doing more work for his side. And actually, his shooting numbers, he's been as clinical as before. He just doesn't have as many opportunities with Calvert-Lewin going down the middle. So, I mean, obviously there is a drop off in his numbers this term, but that has to be compensated for the fact he has almost changed positions a bit. However, I am in agreement with you. I don't know if he's necessarily. It depends on the money. If they got him for something like the 40 to 50 million mark, I'd say, all right, you know what, that's okay in terms of. I don't have a huge opinion on a lot of Real Madrid's wide options, and I think he would do a job in there. But I agree with you. Out of all the options available, I would be very surprised to see Richarlison make the jump to Real Madrid.
Yeah, especially if you're planning these mega signings in the next couple of years, the likes of Haaland and Mbappe. Just save the £50 million on Richarlison and just bank that for now. Especially as I read the other day that they can't even promote a youth team left back to the first team because they'd have to up his salary. Real Madrid's finances not in a good state whatsoever. Henry, let's move on to your suggestion, which came in from Josh TMA, which was Wijnaldum to PSG. On paper, very good player, but he's on enormous wages. I mean, what do you make of this?
It's an interesting one. He's had quite a few weeks, hasn't he, Gini Wijnaldum? Yeah. Obviously, said goodbye to Liverpool. It looked like it was dead set that he was going to go to Barcelona. Then it looked like Bayern Munich were getting involved as well. Lots of talks of their agents were talking to him. But last minute, it looks like PSG have come in and offered him a deal which is too good to refuse, quite frankly. Certainly Barcelona have pulled out, and The Telegraph claim he'll be offered €10 million per year after tax, which works out £165,000 per week, and it's almost over double his £75,000 he was on at Liverpool. I actually don't think that's ridiculous, do you know what I mean? I think Aaron Ramsey's wages at Juventus are ridiculous. I think this is... I think it obviously is a substantial improvement, and I don't blame him at all for taking that as an offer. But yeah, obviously it's a bold move from PSG, and maybe actually a reflection that their finances aren't it's not as easy for them to go out and spend 50, 60 million pounds on a midfielder. Maybe they've got different priorities at the moment there, so maybe a bit wise from them. But for Barcelona, it's a bit of a loss, but they've still got Eric Garcia, Sergio Aguero, Emerson Royal. That's a really good signing from Betis there. There's a complicated dual ownership agreement there, but they've managed to bring him in. That's a really promising player who's going to be going up against Serginho Dest on the right hand side there, and it looks like Memphis Depay will be concluded in a few weeks too, which makes me a little bit worried for what Antoine Griezmann's going to be doing in this side going forward. A lot of attacking options all of a sudden. But yeah, obviously they were in no position therefore to go and match PSG's offer for Wijnaldum, who looks like he'll be off to Paris next season. If we look at the numbers in a bit more detail, it's a 3-year contract. Somebody's going to be turning 31 in November, so that's a lot of money, which they probably won't see back in any kind of later form. He's a player that really does split opinion, doesn't he, in terms of what exactly his skill set lies. I mean, 1.4 tackles and interceptions per 90, 0.9 shots, 0.6 key passes, and 0.5 dribbles. These were his numbers for Liverpool. But we have to remember his main role for the Reds was his ball retention. 46 passes per game, 93% passing accuracy, and he also does cover the fullbacks. A bit of a selfless operator, and you can see why Jurgen Klopp was so sad that Wijnaldum has left. Seems like a really good guy on and off the pitch for the club. But it is worth reminding ourselves that he is a different player for the Netherlands. He scored 22 goals in 75 games, and in 18-19, that was like 8 goals in 9 games. I think he scored something like 4 in the previous 13 since, which is interesting. Since Frank de Boer has come in, I think his roles switched once again, as the Netherlands have struggled a little bit under their new manager. And it maybe would have been good to see him under Koeman, who did get the best out of him. But if he can find that attacking form driving forwards, in my opinion, I don't think this is too bad. If we look at the PSG midfield options, Sarabia is sort of hot and cold, doesn't he, blows there. Angel Di Maria, he's only played about 1,500 minutes last term. He's 33 now, obviously still putting up some great numbers. But I think a player like Wijnaldum, who has the flexibility of driving forward, I sort of prefer him to Ander Herrera in both regards, defensive and going forward there. I think he could really set out a stone and make a place in this PSG side there. They have a lot of players that didn't put up huge minutes, certainly in Ligue 1 last season. Verratti too in that regard. So I think he could be the kind of consistent starter in the midfield that PSG are missing. I don't hate this transfer. I really think that it's sensible from PSG. In a weird way, almost cost effective. Obviously, it's a shame. I'd have liked to have seen him at Barcelona, but they've still got a number of midfield options there. So yeah, I'm quite intrigued to see how this one could play out. I could be completely wrong. Often am on this show, but I'm intrigued to see how Wijnaldum will get on at the Parc des Princes, because I know apparently Pochettino was a big deal for him going there. I think that's a perfect relationship of manager and player, Pochettino and Wijnaldum. So yeah, I'll be interested to see how this one plays out.
Don't put yourself down, man. You are our big match preview champion. You are rarely wrong on this show. Rarely wrong. Yeah, I mean, I don't mind it as well. If his injury record stays as good as it's been, I think he's played over at least 45 games for every season he's been at Liverpool. Then, yeah, it's not too bad for 3 years. Probably got a more well-rounded skill set, as you say, than an Ander Herrera or a Idrissa Gueye, perhaps, as well. And if Hakimi ends up coming in, there's almost no one better than to cover his forward runs than Wijnaldum. He's done that so effectively on the left-hand side of that midfield for Andy Robertson, and when he's played on the right for Trent Alexander-Arnold as well. Another transfer that seems a little bit baffling on paper was suggested by @Finn Hueftok, I think that's how you pronounce it. Thanks, Finn, for suggesting it. And it was Milot Rashica to Bayern Munich. Now, Finn is a Werder Bremen fan, and he brought this to my attention. Basically, they got obviously relegated at the end of the Bundesliga, but it looks like their star player Rashica, or at least their star player prior to this season, is going to be staying in the Bundesliga, and he's linked with Bayern Munich and Eintracht Frankfurt. Bild claim that the winger has a €15 million release clause, and that the 31-time German champions and Frankfurt are interested in signing him. Now, on paper, this doesn't seem like it's going to make a lot of sense, because he had a very underwhelming campaign at Werder Bremen as they were relegated with a series of injury issues. But the logic apparently here is that Douglas Costa has already returned to Brazil, and so Bayern are looking for a relatively cheap backup for Gnabry, Sane and Koeman, and they've used this sort of fourth role fairly limited. I mean, they've got fairly limited minutes in the last couple of years. I mean, even Perisic got a few more minutes in 2019-20, but Douglas Costa barely featured last year. So yeah, I can sort of see it as a squad player, but he's not coming off a great campaign. A measly 3 goals and 1 assist in 22 league games, but at least 13 league goal contributions in the previous 2 seasons. Maybe at 24, he's not the worst squad player to have around, so keep an eye on that one. Milot Rashica probably makes more sense to go to Frankfurt for him right now, but Bayern Munich would be a shock. But we can maybe see a little bit of sense in that one. I mean, McCubs, there's some other ones to mention, though, to be fair. Florian Thauvin going to Tigres, Gianluigi Donnarumma going to PSG, Saul Niguez to Chelsea or Bayern Munich, Harry Winks to Man United, Sergio Roberto I've seen to Man City, and Ruben Neves to Arsenal. I mean, of those sort of transfer rumours that I've just mentioned there, is there any that catch your sort of attention as ones that just don't make sense?
Saul to Chelsea. I just don't feel like at that price point, or even to Bayern, I don't feel like I feel like there's better value in the market at this stage. I kind of feel like Saul's chance to leave Atletico has passed him. I really think he's going to end a club end his career a one club man, unless his value drops and someone takes a chance of him in years to come. I think he's very well suited to the club, and they've always held firm in keeping him at Madrid over the last few years, and keeping his value high, keeping his valuation high. So that one seems a bit weird. Harry Winks to Man United seems very weird. Other ones I don't like. Sergio Roberto to Man City I don't hate actually. I think he would be a very good squad player there. He's obviously very versatile. Obviously his Barcelona stock as well. I think he'd very quickly mould to Pep's methods. I think Gianluigi Donnarumma to PSG is actually excellent. I think that's would be a real coup for them. Keylor Navas is 35 this year. You're getting in the player who will probably be the best goalkeeper over the next 10 years in Europe. So there are some decent ones in there. I think I think I suggested Donnarumma to PSG a few months ago, and lots of people were like, "Oh, what about Navas?" But yeah, he's going to need to replacing at some point, and he is an excellent keeper. But I think in terms of long-term thinking, if you can get Donnarumma for free, no matter how much you're paying him, I think you've got to go for him. Ruben Neves to Arsenal, not as mad on because I think they're going to have to spend. They'd have to spend quite a lot on him, wouldn't they? At least 40 million, and I think there might be better value, at least in terms of a player who can really kind of perform or can really sweep up defensively. I think Saul and Winks probably the weirdest of the lot. I can't really comment on Tovan, to be honest. If he wants to go to Mexico and play in that league, I've heard the Liga MX is one of the most crazy entertaining leagues in world football. So at this point, Tovan wasn't. I don't feel like that Tovan was going to get a bigger move than Marseille, was he? So why not go to Mexico and just have a fun time,
have a jolly, get stuck into some tequila. If you want to see our breakdown on Ruben Neves, we discussed that on Transfer Review yesterday. Spoiler alert, I wasn't very keen on it. Albacete liked it though, to be fair. He's a bit more on the McCubs wavelength if it's done for a certain price point, I think. Donnarumma to PSG I just thought was interesting just because Keylor Navas was so good last year, to be fair. I think he was named Ligue 1 Goalkeeper of the Year, but if you can get in Donnarumma, especially for a free, maybe it's not the worst option. It's interesting watching Barcelona and PSG mainly utilising the free market this window. I think it just does go to show the state of the finances in most of Europe's top clubs at the moment. But guys, we want to know from you which of the transfers we've mentioned makes the least sense and why. Get your thoughts in the comments down below, and let's move on to our big match previews. For our big match preview this week, we decided to do 2 games, but relatively briefly because the boys on Sunday Vibes are previewing England versus Croatia. Come on, England! So instead, we're going to focus on 2 games instead. We're going to talk about Saturday night's 8 PM clash between Belgium and Russia, and Sunday afternoon's game between the Netherlands and Ukraine. Henry, Belgium against Russia on Saturday. This feels like Belgium's last chance, maybe, with this current squad at least?
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of focus on the fact that they're quite an old squad going into it, but I don't think it takes away from the quality that they still have running through them. I think I sort of take a moment to sit back and look at their side and think, hold on a second, they've still got some incredible firepower who could do some damage at this tournament. If we look at their group, Russia, Denmark, who I think could be quite a tricky proposition, and then debutants Finland, they should get through their group, and they could go quite deep into the tournament. Like you say, they've got this golden generation which are dying out. Dying out, not dying out, but you know what I mean. Retiring. Alderweireld 32, Boyata 30, Vermaelen 35. I'm amazed that he's still going. Vertonghen 34, Witsel 32, and then Eden Hazard. He's only 30, but his body seems absolutely shot after the last 2 seasons. Certainly.
Yeah, it's more like 60, his body.
Yeah, and if you look at their centre backs, only Jason Donato is only under 30, which, I mean, whether or not he'll be a regular starter in that side remains to be seen. However, McCubbin, I think you did a really good scout report on the kind of the importance of Carrasco, certainly within that Atletico Madrid squad recently. I think he's going to have a huge tournament here. I think he could be a really exciting player to watch down that left-hand side there. Castagna too, enjoyed a pretty decent first season with Leicester. De Bruyne, we need to see the extent of his facial injuries to know exactly what condition he's going in. But they've still got Mertens, Lukaku. I mean, he's my pick for the top scorer at this tournament. I think Lukaku's going to score a serious number of goals. And Courtois still one of the best keepers in the world. So yeah, I mean, aside from the fact they're all a bit old and De Bruyne is a bit 50-50 of his facial injury, which isn't the worst injury to have, they've still got a great squad and they all look in pretty good condition. I'm not sure we'll see Hazard play at all, and I don't think that really matters. And this is, Martinez's final opportunity to try and go somewhere with this Belgian squad. I think they've been pretty impressive. They're still ranked world number 1, let's not forget. And if we look at their form, they did draw with Greece recently, but they beat Croatia 1-0 in their friendlies, and they won all 10 of their qualifiers, scoring 40. They know what to do. They just need to push it over the edge in a major tournament. Sounds like a different nation that we follow quite closely. So yeah, I mean, only one defeat in their last 23 games, and they just look pretty imperious most of the time they play. So yeah, the more I think about it, the more I'm like, hold on a second. I don't know why Belgium in some quarters have been written off this tournament. Age doesn't matter. They've got a ton of experience, a ton of winners running through that side, and I think they could go very far. And I certainly think they'll roll over this Russia side.
Oh, love it. Yeah, I think they'll roll over this Russia side fairly easily as well. I actually drew Belgium in the FD sweepstake, so I will be watching them with keen interest. But yeah, Mertens, Lukaku up front, maybe De Bruyne playing behind. I don't think Eden Hazard's going to play much of a role. I mean, I certainly wouldn't start him in the first game at least. Maybe, he'll slightly ease into the tournament. Torgan Hazard as well hasn't had the best of times at Dortmund this season as well, but we know how dangerous he can be as well. So it'll be interesting to see with Belgium. But as for Russia, their squad, I mean, I haven't watched them since the 2018 World Cup in all truth, but I was doing a bit of reading beforehand, and apparently their squad's a bit of a mess. So their legendary goalkeeper Igor Akinfeev retired after their run to the quarterfinals in 2018, and his replacement then got subbed off in a Nations League game against Serbia after conceding 4 goals and a half, and he hasn't made the squad now. They've still got Yuri Zhirkov, who's 38, playing as one of their wing-backs, which isn't a great sign. Artem Zuba as well is a well-known name as well. He was dropped last year after a lewd video was leaked. Naughty Artem. Many people supported him publicly, and he has made the squad. He scored 3 in 3 in World Cup qualifiers in March as well, so he's coming in with a bit of form. Yeah, everyone knows what he's going to bring. He brings a lot of physicality. He's tough to deal with as well. Quite an ugly player to watch, in my personal opinion, but quite effective at the same time as well. Russia don't have a great recent record as well. They haven't got out of the groups at the Euros since 2008, when of course they reached the semi-finals. Positives for them though. Golovin and Alexei Miranchuk as well from Atalanta could provide a bit of class and creativity on the wings as well. Miranchuk didn't get many minutes at Atalanta this season, but he's got a bit about him. Golovin was excellent for Monaco at points as well, so we'll see what happens. In terms of their form, they went winless in their first 6 games after the pandemic, but they've now won 3 of their last 5. I don't think they'll win this game. I don't think they'll get out of the group. Or they might get out of the group as the best third place side, because 4 of the best third place sides do, which is a little bit of a cheat code. But yeah, Russia, not particularly looking forward to seeing them in this tournament. It'll be interesting to see what effect that, not having that crowd behind them, which seemed to make a massive difference in 2018. Yeah. So let's park that one for now. In terms of the second game, McCubs, it's Netherlands-Ukraine. And you've got a sneaky feeling Ukraine might be all right, don't you?
Yeah, I feel like they might be one of the, I don't know, not dark horses, but I think they're a team that could surprise some at this tournament. Obviously managed by the legendary Andrei Shevchenko, who survived a lot of calls actually for his sacking after they failed to qualify for the 2018 World Cup. But the way he's responded has been excellent. Their qualifying campaign was incredibly impressive. Obviously, that's a little while ago now, but yeah, very, very solid. They won 6 of their 8 matches. They scored 17, conceded 4. Obviously, going unbeaten. They finished above Portugal and Serbia. So yeah, a pretty tough group, and I think Portugal have probably improved, especially in terms of their individual players' form at club level in the kind of 18 months since then, but they beat them 2-1 at home. They drew 0-0 away. So this is a very tough team to beat. And they've got some very useful players. Obviously, they've got the likes of Yarmolenko and Pyatov, who are very seasoned veterans. Yarmolenko has an amazing scoring record for Ukraine, although that's quietened down a little bit in the last couple of years. But then you've got players who are kind of hitting their peak, like Zinchenko and Malinovsky, who both play kind of advanced midfield roles for the side. And then you've got a young gun like Viktor Tsiankov, who has looked excellent over the last few years. I think he's 23. He scored at least 15 goals from the right wing for Dynamo Kiev in each of the last 3 seasons. Although he does go into this tournament as a bit of an injury doubt. He's missed the last 2 games, but he scored the goal that beat Spain in the Nations League back last October, and they did suffer Nations League relegation, but they were in a group with Germany and Spain, so quite a tough group to be in. They've also drawn with Kazakhstan and Finland, so yeah, going into this tournament not in the most amazing form. They beat Northern Ireland and Cyprus in their friendlies, obviously not the most formidable opposition, but yeah, I think this Ukraine side could be one to watch, especially in a group which, aside from the Netherlands, I don't think is too difficult to navigate. And Shevchenko has done a good job of kind of comprising the squad almost entirely of Shakhtar and Dynamo Kiev players. So it's a squad that knows each other really, really well, and I think that can really count for something at a tournament like this. I think we saw that actually at the 2018 World Cup in Russia. Obviously, they had home advantage, but they also had, players who, mainly played for the biggest Russian clubs. And I think that having that kind of understanding, especially when you've got such experienced heads in there as well, and some real leaders on the field, will really, I think can really count in your favour. And I'm really excited to particularly see Malinovsky, who's obviously come off 2 amazing seasons with Atalanta, Zinchenko as well. Just love him as an all-round player in general, and really excited to see him, playing in his, what is his preferred position in midfield. I think Ukraine could nick this against what is a slightly dysfunctional Netherlands side, I think.
Love it. Yeah, relatively easy group, I should say. Not easy group. No group is completely easy. But Austria as well, who I read haven't won a game at a major tournament this century, I don't think.
Mad.
And North Macedonia, who are debutants as well. We've got an EFD Explained that I wrote actually is coming out on Sunday about North Macedonia and how they rose from, at the toils of the Balkan Wars and then changing their identity, and then beat Germany in a World Cup qualifier. Now they're at their first major tournament, so get tuned for that on Sunday. Should be a good video. Danny Pape on the edit as well. Henry, though, Ukraine's opponents this weekend, the Netherlands, and it feels so good to have the Netherlands back in a major tournament because it's been so long. 7 long years.
Well, Dougie going full Dutch there.
I was, yeah.
You're right. I mean, I would have been more excited if they kind of maintained their momentum under Koeman going into this. I think the change to Frank de Boer has produced some interesting results. We'll get onto that in a minute. But as you said, this is their first tournament in 7 years. Feels so weird to not have them, at a major event. Obviously, the big blow to them is the fact they've lost Van Dijk going into this. But you know what? They've got some pretty good defensive options. So good that Sven Botman didn't even make the side. He's been at the under-21s.
Yeah.
But they've got De Vrij, De Ligt, who's had a bit of a mixed campaign at Juventus again. But then, Blind and Nathan Ake as well. These are really, certainly Blind, lots of experience in there. I think a decent centre-back options, if ever, compared to most of the national teams that you see going into this. And they've also lost Donny van der Beek as well to injury. He scored 3 times in 19 games for Le Orange. But you know what? He's hardly played for United this season as well. And then once again, this is the thing that's strange about this Netherlands squad, because they've got so many good players, don't they? Frankie de Jong, one of the stars of that Barcelona side. Martin de Roon of Atalanta. Wijnaldum, obviously, coming into this. Gravenberch, David Klaassen, who's had a bit of a renaissance since he's gone back to Ajax. And then Cooper Miners. Dougie, I know you're a huge fan of this player going in as well.
I do like him, yeah.
And then Memphis Depay, he's really led from the front up top there, to the point that Wout Weghorst will probably be on the bench. Another favourite of our show here. For anyone who remembers, the last time they were in the Euros in 2012, they did actually lose all 3 of their games, stunningly, against Denmark, Portugal and Germany. But they've reached 3 semi-finals in the 4 tournaments before that. So they do have pedigree, maybe not of this generation of players. And, their form isn't great. Since the start of 2020, they failed to win 6 of their 13 games. 3 defeats. They've dropped points against the likes of Bosnia and Turkey and didn't manage to beat Mexico, and could only draw 2-2 against Scotland recently at home. Great result for Scotland. but a bit worrying signs for that Netherlands team, who did line up. They were pretty strong, the outfit that they put out there. And you have to remember, this came after they went for a pretty straightforward qualifying group. They looked really impressive in qualifiers under Koeman. And that, like we've gone over Austria, it'll be interesting to see how they perform in this tournament. Didn't look particularly convincing against England the other day. I'm with you though. I think Ukraine, I'm really excited to see them. I got picked as my worst team for the FD sweepstakes, so I was pretty happy about. I think they could do some damage. But yeah, it was. It's going to be tricky for the Netherlands, I think. I just don't think there's much confidence in their manager, and I think they've just not got the right momentum going into this competition. But it can all change. It's just they've got the star quality and power to make the difference on the big occasion, and I think that's hopefully what they're dragging for. I think it's going to be one of those tournaments where they rely on the big players to do sort of get them out of some tricky holes, because I'm not sure as a team they've got the cohesiveness to go as far as perhaps people were expecting when Koeman looked to have restored them to sort of a major force again. But yeah, for me, I'm with McCubs in this one. I think Ukraine could nick it.
Oh, there we have it. Yeah, no, it's interesting about Frank de Boer. I was reading for the, researching for the script I was writing that I was talking about for North Macedonia. His win percentage is lower than the North Macedonian manager's win percentage, which is quite intriguing. Guys, though, it's got to that time. It's our Euros prediction time. We need ones for both. So, Henry, what are you thinking for Belgium-Russia?
Oh, I love Arsene Juba, by the way. I think he's such a great guy. So up front. I'm going to go Belgium 3-0.
3-0. I'm going to go 3-1, I think. McCubs, what are you thinking?
Yeah, I feel like I can't really not go for a Belgium win. I can't really go for a Belgium win. I'm going to say, in fact, I'll be different because it's the Euros and anything can happen. So I'm going to go for I'm going to go for 2-2.
Wow.
And I do think I know you're saying
2-2.
I know you were saying I think
his
Russia do have a game, at least one game in St. Petersburg, right, in this group. I guess not in this game, but yeah, I wouldn't write them off just yet. They did surprise us all at 2018, didn't they? So.
They always have one player that sort of emerges from nowhere. I think last tournament it was Zhirkov, the CSKA central midfielder, and it'd be interesting to see because like Golovin he's really stepped up his game at Monaco this season. So yeah, maybe it seems a bit unfair to write them off, but you're right. Just losing Akinfeev, I think, in goal is such a big loss. Without that solid base to work off, I'm not sure that they're going to do very well.
Yeah, he was a great keeper, absolute Russian legend. Okay, there we have it. We've got some mixed opinions on that one. Let's move on to the game on Sunday. McCubs, what are you thinking for Netherlands-Ukraine score-wise?
God, I'm going for 0 points here, aren't I? Straight off the bat, I've already predicted an unlikely draw between Belgium and Russia, and I'm going to go for 2-0 Ukraine. Why not?
Okay, love
I don't know why I'm doing this,
in
but it's
mood.
the Euros, man. The Euro, it infects me. Like international tournaments infect me, and I have to go for outrageous predictions. But yeah, I do genuinely think Ukraine can win this. Maybe 2-0 sounds a bit too comfortable, but yeah, why not?
Do you mean win this or win the tournament?
No, win this game.
Oh, shame. I thought you were going all the way for Ukraine.
Yeah, why
win
not?
For
Why not? Andriy Shevchenko lifting.
It wouldn't be
the
as big a
Euros.
shock as it wouldn't be bigger shock as Greece winning in 2004.
Probably not.
To be
Probably
fair.
not. There's just more good teams, I think, this time around.
Yeah, true. Stranger things have happened. Right, Henry, what are you going for this?
I'm going to go for a draw. I'm going to go for an entertaining 2-2 draw, I think. The only concern for Ukraine is they don't really have a standout striker in attack. They've got lots of players behind. Tishankov, I really hope he is fit because he's a really exciting player. Must get a move soon. But yeah, they don't seem to have a set striker. So yeah, I'm going to go for a entertaining 2-2 draw. More on the fact that Netherlands will probably have a bit of a meltdown.
Fair enough. I think it's going to be really tight, really edgy. First game in 7 years. I'm going for a 1-0 Netherlands win, but I think it could be quite ugly. But let's see what happens. Guys, get your predictions in for Belgium, Russia and the Netherlands versus Ukraine in the comments down below. And that is all we've got time for Continental Club for this week. I hope you enjoyed our look at transfers that don't make sense, some predictions for this weekend's Euros games. And if they've enjoyed this, McCubs, what should they go and watch now?
I've been a bit out of the loop with our recent content, but obviously, yeah, stay tuned for the North Macedonia video. On Sunday, I actually had a very quick peep at the script yesterday because I saw it was I saw it was in one of our documents, so I had a quick peep and it looks excellent. There's also a video on Jack Grealish coming out on Saturday, I believe, on Football Daily, which I wrote and James is editing as we speak. So that should be good for you Jack Grealish fans out there. I know his fan club is kind of growing by the minute at the moment. So yeah, stay tuned for those and check out all our other kind of Euros content that we've done this week, because we've done a lot of stuff in the build up to it. I feel like everyone will be a bit sick of it by next week. We are kind of going to mix up stuff with kind of transfer things, club orientated things as well, but at the moment we're just kind of gearing up for the Euros, aren't we? So yeah, make sure you go and check out all of that stuff.
Nice. Henry, I know you've been on holiday, but do you have anything to say to the fans?
Just get ready for a good summer. It's coming. But yeah, no, I'm doing an exercise today.
That should be the new motto for England. Get ready for a good summer. It's coming, rather than it's coming home.
Oh yeah, exactly. Oh god, I'm doing this XI on the England versus Iceland. Where are they now? So maybe everyone ignore that, because that'll be like, let's keep the good vibes going into the tournament. Yeah.
Fair. Thank you very much for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time. Have a great weekend. Bye.